Imagine the U.S. Army rolling out a brand new rifle that promises to outshoot threats at longer ranges, punch through more armor, and change the way infantry fights, then quietly removing it from a key independent test program. That move alone would make headlines, but when soldiers start posting critical feedback and watchdog groups raise alarms, the story becomes a national conversation about safety, accountability, and whether cutting red tape is worth the risk. Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're digging into the M7, the Army's next-generation rifle meant to replace the M4. We're going to break down what the M7 does differently, why it was pulled from one of the Pentagon's most respected independent test pipelines, what defenders and critics are saying, and what this could mean for troops on the ground. This isn't just about engineering specs, it's about lives. So let's get into it. Segment 1. What is the M7 and why is it different? The M7, originally marketed as the XM7, is the Army's candidate to succeed the M4 carbine. It's built on the Sig Sauer MCX Spear family and is paired with a new, more powerful cartridge, the 6.8 by 51 mm round. That caliber is meant to extend effective range and improve lethality compared with the decades-old 5.56 NATO. Beyond the new cartridge, the M7 is bundled with a high-tech fire control optic that combines range finding, ballistic calculation, and sensor inputs into a single aiming system. In theory, that system gives soldiers an edge at longer distances and against better protected adversaries. Instead of trading accuracy for volume, the M7 flips the equation. It favors reach and single-shot effectiveness over the old paradigm of lighter ammo and more rounds carried. This is the biggest small arms change since the U.S. adopted the M16. Trading shot density for stopping power has obvious tactical advantages, but it also creates new logistical and ergonomic puzzles. Heavier ammo means fewer rounds per load, and a more complex optic means more points of failure. Segment 2. The testing change. What actually happened? In August 2025, the M7 was removed from the oversight purview of the Director, Operational Test and Evaluation, DOT&E. DOT&E is the independent office Congress created to apply realistic, rigorous, and impartial evaluation to major defense programs. Having a program on DOT&E's list means it will undergo certain independent tests and scrutiny before it's approved for full fielding. When a program is taken off that list, it isn't automatically declared unsafe or defective, but it does mean the program won't be required to follow DOT&E's specific independent testing regimen. For a weapon intended to be the primary rifle of frontline soldiers, critics see that as a big deal. Segment 3. Why people are worried. Critics point to several practical and procedural concerns. Independent testing offices are specifically designed to simulate the chaos of battle, expose failure modes, and highlight issues that insiders might miss or downplay. Historical examples are sobering. In earlier eras, weapons that appeared fine on paper or in limited trials later produced catastrophic real-world problems. DOT&E was partly founded to prevent exactly those repeat mistakes. Removing DOT&E oversight raises these questions. Will the M7 be stress-tested in the same realistic conditions? Mud, sand, heat, cold, grime that soldiers encounter? Will the fire control optic and the rifle be evaluated for long, continuous operations where electronics and mechanical systems accumulate wear and failure modes? Will Congress and the public get transparent, verifiable data that justifies switching millions of soldiers to a new round, new logistics tail, and new training system? For watchdogs, the worry isn't hypothetical. Independent reviewers have a track record of identifying serious failures in high-profile programs, from naval ships with questionable survivability to aircraft with persistent mission system bugs. The argument is simple. Independent testing doesn't just find faults, it builds trust. Segment 4. What the Army says in response. The Army's message is that DOT&E oversight was redundant and that the M7 has already undergone a battery of tests. According to official statements, The rifle has seen live fire trials, extreme environment checks, airborne drop tests, and user evaluations across multiple units. Some DOT&E personnel were reportedly present for portions of those trials. The Army also argues that its own evaluation center will continue to assess the weapon, and that further environmental testing, such as tropical trials, remains on the schedule. From the Army's perspective, removing the rifle from DOT&E's formal list expedites the bureaucracy without sacrificing safety. That argument has a certain internal logic. If the weapon already met or exceeded the Army's requirements, forcing it through another redundant layer could delay delivery. But that leads straight into the biggest question of all. If the Army is confident in its own testing, why not keep DOT&E involved and demonstrate that confidence to the public? Segment 5. The real-world unknowns that matter. This debate isn't just procedural, it's practical. A handful of very real unknowns remain. Soldier load and endurance. The 6.8mm round is heavier. How many fewer rounds will an average soldier carry? How will that change squad tactics, resupply cadence, or mission endurance? System durability. Higher pressure rounds can stress barrels, gas systems, and bolts differently than the old 5.56. Will the M7 maintain acceptable service life under prolonged, dusty, or wet conditions? Optical resilience. The fire control unit gives a technological leap, but electronics can fail or degrade. How does the optic perform after dozens or hundreds of hours in adverse environments? Can soldiers easily fight without it if it malfunctions? Logistics and training. A new round, a new sighting system, different maintenance needs. It all increases the logistics footprint. How rapidly can units convert their supply chains and training curricula without operational disruptions? Each of these unknowns is exactly the kind of issue independent operational tests are built to surface. Segment 6. History and why independent checks matter. DOT&E was founded because the U.S. military learned painful lessons about fielding equipment that wasn't ready. Poorly tested systems have historically led to increased risk and lives lost. DOT&E's work has forced program managers to confront uncomfortable failures and has saved taxpayers billions by catching problems early enough to fix or cancel programs. Examples abound. Aircraft and ship programs whose early independent tests exposed critical failures that the services had missed or minimized. In each case, outside testing either forced necessary redesigns or halted programs that would not have served combat troops effectively. That institutional memory is why many observers are uneasy when a major program is removed from independent oversight. Segment 7. What the criticisms say specifically about the M7. Besides the procedural objections, there's also signal in the chatter from troops and evaluators. While many users praise the M7's accuracy and lethality, some soldiers and testers have raised concerns about the paired optics reliability and field robustness. Reports suggest the optic rifle package might not reliably survive prolonged, intense operational timelines without critical faults. If those faults are real and widespread, the implications are stark. Soldiers rely on consistent, predictable weapons. A rifle that occasionally jams or an optic that fails mid-mission isn't a minor inconvenience. It's a potentially fatal flaw. Segment 8. A reasonable middle path. This conversation doesn't have to be binary. It isn't merely trust the Army versus distrust everything. There are sensible compromise positions, such as continue the Army's internal tests, but keep DOT&E observers and require public reporting of key test results. That approach would preserve speed where appropriate, but keep crucial independent verification in play. Another option, rapid post-fielding operational tests with real units while maintaining a robust after-action review and mandatory reporting to Congress. The goal would be to marry speed and transparency. Get the best gear in hands quickly, but don't sacrifice independent proof that it works. Segment 9. Why this matters for you and for policy. If you care about military effectiveness, veterans' safety, or taxpayer accountability, this is important. Switching the Army's main rifle has ripple effects across budgets, training, industry, and battlefield tactics. A misstep here could cost enormous sums and, more importantly, put troops at risk. On the other hand, if the M7 truly delivers a significant leap in reach and lethality, fielding it efficiently could be a force multiplier that keeps soldiers safer by allowing them to engage threats sooner and with fewer rounds. The M7 represents an ambitious technological pivot, a new caliber, a new optic, a fundamentally different approach to how infantry fights. Removing it from DOT&E oversight raises legitimate concerns about transparency and independent verification. The Army insists the rifle has been thoroughly examined and that further testing will occur. But critics argue that the most credible path forward is one that keeps independent assessment front and center. At the end of the day, this is about more than procurement processes and acronyms. It's about equipping service members with weapons they can trust under the worst possible conditions. Independent testing exists for a reason. Even if the Army is right and the M7 is solid, demonstrating that through independent data would quiet critics and build confidence among the troops who will carry it. If you found this helpful, smash the like button. Subscribe if you're new around here, and let me know your thoughts in the comments. Is this move defensible because it speeds fielding? Or is it reckless without DOT&E's oversight? If you want a deep dive on the 6.8 by 51mm round, how it compares ballistically to 5.56 and 7.62, and what it means for soldier loadouts, say so in the comments and I'll make that next. Thanks for watching, stay sharp, and I'll see you in the next video.